that shit.
Welcome to Trash Talk MMA.
Smile on my face, behind my back, and talk trash.
The #1 podcast for news and insight that matters in the world of mixed martial arts. Brought to you live and unfiltered from all four corners of the globe by MMA aficionado Antoine Pelche.
Yo, and welcome to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Pelche, and on today's show, I have a very special guest, once again, from the Tiger Muay Thai family, Mr. George Hickman, pro MMA fighter. How you doing today, George?
Doing well.
Excellent. We have another beautiful sunny day in Thailand.
Yes, they're all sunny.
They're all sunny. Yeah, I've been, what's the expression here? I think there's no such thing as seasons. There's just hot days or hot rainy days.
Yeah, I think something along those lines.
And I guess we're right in what is considered their summer, right?
Yes, so it's very nice all the time.
How long have you been out here for?
11 months, almost a year.
Okay, so you're coming up on the anniversary. Interesting. Well, I'm sure we can delve into your reasons and how you came to Thailand. Maybe that's even a good place to start. Or perhaps we can back up a little bit. Going over your promotional video from Tiger Muay Thai, you obviously have an extensive wrestling background, and that's a key part of your fighting style. Is that an accurate assessment?
Pretty accurate, yeah.
Okay.
Wrestled from the time I was a kid until up through college.
Okay, why don't we delve into that a little bit? Why don't you describe your wrestling background?
Well, I'm from North Carolina, not the strongest state for wrestling. However, I started wrestling when I was 5, and my brother wrestled as well. My dad got us both into it. And in high school, I was a 3-time state champion, a 4-time state finalist. And then after that, I went to Bloomsburg University in Pennsylvania, where I competed I redshirted 1 year, but I competed and started for 4 years there. Didn't have the career that I wanted to, that I expected out of myself. My senior year, I was, ranked in the top 20 in the country and qualified for the national tournament. But I didn't place or All-American, and I think that's what kind of drove me once I started fighting is, I still had things that I wanted to accomplish in athletics, and college didn't pan out into what I wanted it to be, so kind of kept me motivated to continue competing.
So what were your original aspirations as far as your wrestling career was concerned? What would you have liked to achieve? What's the big kahuna?
I think every kid that goes into college wrestling, it's really the hardest thing that, it's much harder than MMA. MMA is like great, but wrestling in college, especially at Division I level, it's a grind, man. You make weight once or twice a week for 6-7 months out of the year. If you're on scholarship, then you're there 11 months out of the year. It's very demanding, with cutting weight and going to class and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, you hear that so much of the competitive advantage that wrestlers seem to have at both a physical and a psychological level in MMA. At a physical level because of their ability to, they're familiar with the weight cutting process. So some of these guys are huge and can drop down to lower weight classes, and they're comfortable with that process, and they remain strong during those weight cuts.
Right.
And that also, that the competitions themselves are so grueling that there's such a tremendous drive to succeed there.
Yeah, it is, making weight in college. You either had, whether it was a tournament, if you wrestled in a tournament, you made weight, you had 2 hours to recover until, you would compete. If it was a dual meet, school against school, you had 1 hour. Okay. So it was, wrestlers are used to making weight and competing on not like where you have 24 hours like in MMA, you can make weight, get an IV, rehydrate, and, you have all night, all day until you fight. Whereas in wrestling, it's like make weight and go. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's got to be a ferocious procedure. Yeah. I mean, that does just give such an advantage to American wrestlers over almost anyone else competing in MMA. I mean, is there any other sport in any other country that would have a discipline like this as far as weight cutting is concerned? Like just the frequency of it and the expertise of it?
Not to my knowledge. It's, not to my knowledge. But, you know, for me, cutting weight in MMA is different than how I did it in college. I have a guy that I use, George Hickman. He's been on Errol Hawani's show recently. He's starting to get a lot of publicity. But, you know, I met him through Brian Stan. I actually trained with him in Atlanta. But he did everybody that I trained with in Atlanta's, you know, weight cuts. He's done John Jones's weight cuts, Roy McDonald's. Like, he's a very big name. But he's not like you know, his weight cutting is like, it's really a science. It's, you know, you just tell him what you want, what your goals are, what weight class you want to be, and everything is tailored.
Just makes it happen.
Yeah, everything is tailored to your body. And, you know, my diet's going to be different than your diet is, because our body's different, our training regimen is different. I mean, the times you wake up are different. So he taught me how to cut weight a different way for MMA, and so far it's been great. Yeah,
and everybody's bodies seem to process weight changes differently. Like, I know myself, I tend to just always revolve around 180 pounds.
Right.
That's, you know, and I'm just more or less in or out of shape.
Right.
How does your body respond to it? I mean, are you the type that you get, and I have some friends, they just balloon up or they shrink down as soon as they, you know, if they just slack off and eat, they get fat. And then as soon as they do exercise, they really, really slim down quickly. So how does your body, you know, deal with the various weight changes that you have to do process when you're cutting weight and bulking up between fights?
I always work out in between fights, but I don't kill myself, you know. At least once a day I usually work out. But once I start dieting and I don't drink alcohol or anything, then my weight comes down and I'm usually in the mid 160s. And then once I start doing my weight cut, you know, I'm like low to mid 160s, and George just kind of tells me what I have to do, and from there it's pretty easy.
Yeah, so it sounds like with the past that you have, the experience, that weight cutting for you isn't a big issue. No, it's just something that you've been born and bred into since you're a teenager.
I'm used to it, you know. I've done it since I was a kid, so like, you know,
some people
don't like when people eat in front of them. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me. It's, you know, it is what it is.
Now, you mentioned Brian Stan earlier. It seems that you two have a working relationship, or even more than that. I mean, what's your relationship with Brian Stan?
He's like a big brother to me. He, you know, I trained with him in Atlanta. And
how'd you guys initially meet?
Just working out at gyms in Atlanta. You know, at first I didn't like Brian because he didn't really pay me any attention. Yep. And then we wrestled one time, and then he started paying more attention to me, and then he kind of took me under his wing like a little brother almost. And he helped me. I didn't have a manager or anything, so he kind of helped just give me advice. Not like he was my manager, but he helped give me advice and kind of guide me on what I needed to do, and took care of me as far as, you know, teaching me, you know, about sparring and stuff and saving my chin. And he actually helped me get my current manager that I have now. So we don't talk all the time, but, you know, occasionally we do talk, and he's always been, you know, like a big brother figure, and he's a big reason why I'm in Thailand now.
Yeah, it sounds like he's functioned as a mentor for you.
Yes. Okay. Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I like Brian Stan a lot, not just because of the great fights he puts on, but he always shows an incredible amount of professionalism and integrity in everything that he does.
Oh, yeah, man. He's a very good person. He's what you see is what you get.
Yeah. So what do you believe are some of the qualities that Brian Stan would have seen in you that, you know, that separated you from the pack, and that he wanted to, you know, just push you and develop you further?
I don't know. Probably my wrestling, you know, is first, I think, what kind of made him notice me. But just my, you know, work ethic and stuff in the room, and will to win, you know. And he also, we used to laugh because I was a car salesman, you know, in the U.S. So I worked, you know, 60-plus hours a week, as well as I would go to work, then leave to go train at his gym, and then go back to work, and then leave to go train again at night with my Muay Thai coach. So, you know, he saw that, like, I wasn't like all the other guys that were, you know, like coaching or something. Like, I had a real job. Like, he had a real job through his whole fighting career, so I had to juggle the two of them. But, you know, that's the reason I'm here, is he was like, listen, if you want to do this and you really want to make a run at it and do well, you've been successful doing what you've been doing so far. However, you know, you need to get to a camp where you can train full time, and basically just told me to pack my bags and go.
So why did he tell you to go to Thailand? I mean, there's obviously countless gyms in the United States. What was that? What was that connection? Because I know you also did the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
When I saw the tryouts online, I was thinking about going to another place, and then that kind of fell through. It was like almost like it was supposed to happen, like right after the other gig fell through. I saw that they had tryouts. I think I saw it on one of the MMA websites, and I messaged a couple of friends. I messaged one kid that had trained here before, and also Alan Belcher, and they both contacted Will. And once Will contacted me, I just kind of had Brian help me and deal with the process of getting out here. And, I came for the tryouts, and everything worked out well, and now I'm still here a year later.
Yeah, I can imagine that having a co-sign from Brian Stan would have been a good thing to get in on those tryouts. I know, it's a selective process, kind of invitation only. So, I mean, that's an incredible co-sign for you to have to get you through there.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate with the people I've been, had access to and been surrounded by in my MMA career. So it was definitely good having Brian. We tried to bypass the whole tryout process. However, Will kind of put the kibosh on that and made me still go through it. And, at the end of the day, I'm happy that I did do the tryout process. It was something, that I can say I did, and it wasn't easy. But
yeah, I've heard that just going through it unto itself is quite a grueling process, and to just do it, let alone win it, is an accomplishment.
Yeah, it was definitely a grueling process. But it was, like I said, I'm glad that I ended up doing it, and can say that I was part of that tryout group. And, we're not having tryouts again this year. Everyone likes the team that we have, and I've been fortunate to, gain some great friendships out of the tryout process, and also some great training partners. So,
yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have, interviewed Will Elliott about this, and it seems like it's a delicate situation where they've done these tryouts 2 years in a row, and they've identified and begun to nurture so much talent like yourself and Shea Walsh and Alice Volkanovski, and that they don't want to run them again this year because they don't want to dilute the efforts that they're putting into you guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great move on their behalf. You need to grow, but you also need to nurture what you are growing, Definitely. So I think it's a smart move, and a quality over quantity type approach.
Yeah, it's been great. For me, I had great training partners in the U.S. Like I said, I had access to great training partners, great coaching. Some of the other guys, like Alex, for instance, from Australia, he's a very good fighter, works very hard, awesome, probably the nicest person I've ever met. But, he didn't have the greatest training situation in Australia. So for him, someone like him, this scholarship has been like a game changer for him. He's been around world-class training partners and coaches now. So it's been great for, him. And, I'm very fortunate to have gotten it as well and be able to stay here.
Now, you passed the tryouts. You're now officially sponsored by Tiger Muay Thai. You also have a role in the training.
Yes.
At the facility. So do you work as a trainer at Tiger Muay Thai as well?
Yes, I am a trainer as well. Before Roger's fight, before his last fight in the 1FC, I think Brian Ebersole had kind of left, and he had a training camp coming up, and he had left to go back to the States and whatnot. So, I helped Roger with his wrestling, but also helped teach a lot, so it kind of relieved him of his duties so that he could train for his fight. And then everything ended up working out, and now I'm working at Tiger, and I'm a wrestling coach and help teach MMA with Roger. So we have it's really, I feel very lucky to be in the position I am. Will's helped me out a lot, and teaching and coaching with Roger is awesome because it's funny, we're always on this. I would have never thought I'd be, hanging with this superstar all the time. We always joke with him and say that, but, Roger's an awesome guy. He's one of the most humble people I've ever met, and I'm glad that we have such a great relationship because just, not only we're great friends, but also coaching, we think alike in pretty much everything that we do. When we go to another country and corner a fighter, it's funny, we're both yelling the same stuff because we think alike. So it's good to have someone that, is on the same page with you, backs you up, and has the same philosophy as you.
So what are the exact courses or the training sessions that you're involved with as a trainer at Tiger Muay Thai?
Pretty much, I'm in every day, whether Monday and Friday are sparring days, and then Tuesday and Thursday are wrestling days, and Wednesday is MMA technique. And those are all our afternoon classes. And Roger and I pretty much, obviously he's the head coach, and I assist him, but, we both, kind of run the classes together.
So you basically run the classes in conjunction with Roger. So you guys just complement each other on this.
Yes, compliment would be a very good usage of words. Yes. We do. I think we complement each other well because we're always, on the same page. We have the same philosophies, whether it's wrestling or striking, whatever it is. So he's a great friend, a great, person that I work with, and
that's cool because, I think we all develop tremendous friendships, with our buddies, and often we consider the possibility of working together. And very rarely does that actually work out. Right. It's even just like when you start going to university or leaving home, you consider like, hey, I'm going to be a roommate with a buddy. And just that can turn into trauma very, very quickly. And you're just like, holy crap, that just did not play out the way I thought it would. So that's interesting that you didn't know Roger prior to this, that you guys have quite different styles and different backgrounds as far as your martial arts history is concerned.
Right.
And that somehow there's such a great symbiosis between the two of you that you're able to just click on all cylinders there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's definitely pretty cool, especially, when we're like coaching someone or cornering someone together and, we're like saying the same thing, like feeding off of each other. It's a pretty cool bond that we have. Yeah,
it's funny how you get those rapports between people where you're completing someone's sentences or, just completely on the same page. Now, looking at your record, George, I see you've competed in an extensive amount of places internationally.
Yeah.
You've had fights, obviously, a bunch in the U.S., but you also competed in China and even Japan on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
That was your last fight, correct?
Yes.
Saitama Super Arena?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I mean, that's the Mecca in Japan right there.
Yep. It was a lot of pretty cool to fight in the same arena that a lot of greats and pioneers and some of the greatest people to ever do it have fought in that same arena.
Yeah, man. I mean, Fedor versus Krokop happened in that arena.
Yeah.
Crazy. How did that fight get put together? And what were your thoughts on just going to Japan? I know I've been there twice. It's a fascinating place.
Yeah, it's a really cool place. Definitely somewhere I'd like to go back and go as a tourist to visit. But basically, I think I was in Bangkok in November, cornering some guys that were fighting. Got back and just kind of looked up on one of the Asian websites for MMA about upcoming events. Took a screenshot, sent it to my manager, and said, "Hey, listen, any of these events, I'd be ready to go. Let me know if we can get on any of these cards." And he messaged me back right away, as he usually does. I always tell him he's Johnny on the spot, but he
is he based in Thailand?
No, he's his name's Daniel Rubenstein. He represents like Rafael Asansa, one of my training partners from the US.
Okay.
A couple other guys.
Okay.
He's but that's just almost like a hobby for him. Really good guy. Wrestled at in college at Oklahoma University, so he's
right.
Kind of a plus for me that he was a wrestler as well. But he has a lot of good contacts and messaged me back right away, and pretty much within 24 hours had me on that on the New Year's Eve show. So it was cool. It was a great experience. Roger went with me. The weight cut was fine. The fight didn't go the way that I wanted it to. I ended up losing a decision. A little bit controversial, I guess you could say.
It always is in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Because you were fighting a Japanese fighter, right?
Yeah.
So that's not that's a difficult hustle to go to the judges in Japan against a Japanese fighter.
It's my fault. I had a couple of times I should have finished the fight and I didn't get it done, so it's something I got to live with.
Do you feel you were winning the fight?
Yeah, I do. I think I won the fight, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I think Will mentioned that in my interview with him. He was like, George is 7-2, but he should be 8-1.
Yeah, both my losses, that was my one loss, and then my other loss was a guy I fought in Atlanta. Okay. He ended up knocking me out in 7 seconds in the first round.
Okay.
And then luckily I got to rematch him, and I fought him. And actually, when Bellator came to Atlanta, I fought him in Bellator and beat him. So it was good to get that win back.
All right, let's talk about two of those things. At the last UFC, we saw Ronda Rousey win in 14 seconds, and the devastation emotionally of Kat Zingano. I mean, really, your only true loss was an equally devastating rapid loss. How does that feel? I mean, you put in all that work.
Yeah.
You're obviously your motto seems to be that it's a grind, and you put in all that work, and for it to take a loss in 7 seconds, how do you process that? How do you come back?
For me, I learned a lot in that fight. It's kind of cliche. People always say that you learn more from your losses than your wins, but it's true. In that fight, I was beforehand, my mental state was not the best. I was just like, it wasn't how I normally am. I wasn't nervous, and usually, I'm very nervous before I compete, but it's good nerves. It makes me operate at a high level, and I wasn't nervous. I was like, I want to knock this guy out, this, that, and the other. Well, I went out and was just over aggressive and was not patient like I normally am, and he hit me with a punch and just kind of like jumped back when I think I threw an uppercut or something, and he just hit me right on the button. And when I came to, I just asked my coach what had happened, and he told me, and I was just like, let's go, let's get out of here. I was, it was very humbling and very, very embarrassing moment. It hurt to lose like that in front of those, my friends and family. But it taught me a lot. It taught me to be patient and pick and choose my openings and, not rush things. So
what was the name of this opponent?
Stephen Upchurch.
Okay. And then you actually got the opportunity to rematch him, you said, in Bellator.
Yeah, it was almost exactly a year later. I did get the chance to rematch him in Bellator, which I was more than willing to do. Okay, so there's two things there. How'd the rematch go? It was great, standing up, threw some nice kicks, hit him with some good body shots, fought him southpaw, which is what my coach made me do. And do you fight in both stances? I can, yeah. Okay. Well, just because for that fight, my coach, the Muay Thai coach I had in the U.S. is extremely, extremely good and very high level. And he made me train that whole training camp southpaw. Oh, that's interesting. Just to give this guy a totally different look. Yeah. Okay. And it really, I could see it in his eyes that it really threw the guy off. And, I think at the end of the first round, he kind of came hard with some punches, and I just kind of ducked under him and took him down and ended up submitting him with a rear naked choke. Okay, excellent. So you actually got the stoppage, which is great. Yeah, it was cool. Fantastic. Now tell me about the experience of fighting in Bellator. That's, they're pretty much the number 2 promotion in the United States. Yeah. Obviously far behind the UFC. They're under new presidency with Scott Coker, who took over from Bjorn Rebney. I imagine you fought there during the Rebney regime. Yep. How was that? It was pretty cool, I'd known a lot about Bellator from obviously watching and stuff. My training partner, Douglas Lima, is actually the Bellator champ at 170. Oh, excellent. You trained with Lima? Yeah. Oh, okay. A very good friend of mine. Excellent. I'm a big Lima fan. He's a murderer, man. Yeah, I was really upset that he wasn't able to take that fight with Paul Daly last week. Yeah. I was so looking forward to that. We were text messaging about it. It was pretty funny. But it was a cool experience. It was supposed to be a 3-fight contract. However, when I got the contract, Brian Stan told me not to sign it until he redid everything, and then he ended up, when he told me to sign it, was just for 1 fight, so it was better that way that I wasn't, because obviously my ultimate goal is to make it to the UFC and be with them, so Brian handled all that for me, but it was a great event, it was very professional. It was great to fight in front of, hometown. My parents came down from North Carolina, and excellent. All my coworkers in the car business came and supported me, so it was pretty cool to be able to fight in front of all of them. Yeah, I'm hoping that Bellator, manages to really become a force. Not because I don't appreciate the UFC. Everybody knows I'm a UFC junkie, but I just think that there's simply not enough fights and room for everybody in one promotion, and there's so many great fighters out there, and they have to have another option. There has to be a plan B. There has to be another spot. So
I'm hoping that, I think being, the presidency change to Scott Coker, I think that's a big improvement. Their shows have been pretty solid since he's come on board, and I think he'll make a great addition to that team and bring it up to a certain level. I think the fact that they've cut back on the sheer quantity of fights, right. Again, they're taking a quantity over quality approach, and really emphasizing big fights, making a Bellator event an event.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And doing away with the tournament format, I think, is great.
Yeah, that seemed that was an ambitious proposal from the get-go. You talk about people. I was talking with Shea Walsh a lot about this, about injuries and just how, the setbacks, how quickly they can occur, how long they can last, and how much it, impedes a fighter's ability to compete regularly and earn. And man, they were calling that tournament the hardest tournament in sports, and it maybe was. I mean, they put some of those guys through a lot of fights against high-level dudes that were hungry, in very short time spans.
Oh yeah, it was. I saw Douglas go through it twice.
Yeah.
And for him, he's a huge welterweight, so his weight cut is pretty hard. And watching him have to make weight every month was hard on him. But it was definitely, that tournament is a grind for, those fighters, and something I wouldn't have wanted to do.
Yeah, I really liked his fights against Ben Saunders.
Yeah.
Because Ben Saunders is no joke.
No,
and Lima handled him easily both times, that was very impressive. I'm a big Ben Saunders fan too.
Yeah, Douglas is one of the nicest human beings ever, but he is a different man when he gets in that cage.
Yeah, pretty ferocious competitor.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you think it would have gone if he'd fought Daly last weekend?
I think he would win. I think Paul Daly, obviously he's a veteran of the sport, is very good. I think he's got very heavy hands, but I think Douglas utilizes his Muay Thai and striking skills a lot more. And, we both had the same Muay Thai coach, Manu Intup. So it's...
Yeah, I hope no matter what, it's great because Daly got the win. So
right.
Hopefully that keeps him on track for that title shot. And he actually looked good. He was really, really going for the kill the whole fight. I like Daly. Again, exciting fighter.
Oh, no, I do too.
I think him versus Lima, that's a fight that has to happen.
Yeah.
That was an awesome piece of matchmaking. That was the fight that I was looking the most forward to on that card.
I agree 100%. I like watching Daly fight as well.
Yeah. So in a couple of days we have UFC 185 coming up. Is there anything on there that you're interested about? Pettis, Dos Anjos, Overeem, Roy Nelson.
Yeah, I'd like to see how Overeem's going to do. He's had some setbacks in the past since he's been in the UFC, but also Pettis. I'm a huge Pettis fan. He's that guy's unbelievable with some of the things he does and pulls off in the cage, and it's almost something he expects out of himself. So. It's pretty cool to, how he sets himself apart from everyone else, and with the things that he can do inside the octagon, and just so comfortable and fluid in there.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Pettis, right, is that you just get the impression that there's a hype around his fights because you don't know what he's going to do. And I think that's such a testament to and a life lesson in that when you're original and you're unique and you're unpredictable, it makes you interesting. Yeah. And that's a truth in all walks of life, whether you're a cook, a chef, a musician, a movie maker, or a professional athlete.
Yeah. No, he definitely sets himself apart inside that cage. I mean, he is comfortable in there, and the things that he does are pretty incredible.
Yeah. And I like Dos Anjos, and I like the progress that he's made between fights when he's lost.
Right.
And he's, it's crazy. He knocked out Benson Henderson.
Right.
I think, and he's the last man to hold a victory over Donald Cerrone, who is just on a 7-fight win streak right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Dos Anjos, he's no joke, but there's just something really special about Pettis.
Yeah. Dos Anjos is definitely a game competitor and a game opponent, that's for sure. But, Pettis has got, he can almost, when he sees the kill shot and he takes it, man, he just hones in on it. And
it seems like he sees kill shots in places that other people don't.
Right, yeah, he's very precise.
And that's kind of Anderson Silva-esque.
Right.
Of, just how he finished Gilbert Melendez, backpedaling.
Yeah.
It's stunning, Comes out of nowhere.
Right, yeah, no, he really is. He's very gifted.
He obliterated Donald Cerrone
in,
a minute, if that.
Yeah.
took apart Gilbert Melendez, submitted him. First guy to ever submit Gilbert.
Right.
So yeah, you're dealing with a pretty special athlete and talent.
Yes, he definitely is that. You know, he's got a lot to offer, that's for sure.
Now, did you train with Overeem? Have you seen Overeem? Because Overeem's trained at Tiger Muay Thai, no?
I believe so. You know, a lot of these guys that have trained there before is before my era or before my time of here. So no, I've never trained with him.
Yeah, I remember seeing some pictures online of Alistair Overeem training in Thailand probably about a year ago or so, but I don't know if he was training exactly at
I don't think it was at Tiger. I think he did one of his fight camps in Thailand before. Yep. But yeah, I don't think it was at Tiger. I think it was at a different gym.
Yeah, I think this fight can go one of two ways. I think in a sense, it's almost one of those picture-perfect fights for Roy Nelson to win.
Yeah.
To just, you know, everybody mentions Overeem's suspect chin.
Right.
And Roy Nelson takes advantage of those very easily.
Yeah, he does.
But if Overeem's mojo is on and he's firing on all cylinders, he has a lot more tools than Roy Nelson.
Yeah, I think unless Roy Nelson hits him with a big overhand, he's known for, I don't think that, you know, he'll win. I think Overeem's just too athletic and, you know, too good everywhere compared to him.
Yeah, I wish we could see Overeem get on a run here. You know, it's a shame when highly touted non-UFC fighters finally make their way to the UFC. You know, the likes of a Hector Lombard and an Alistair Overeem or an Eddie Alvarez, and they just can't seem to find their groove. And Overeem hasn't found his groove despite entering the UFC with a big win over Brock Lesnar.
Right.
I'd like to see him do that. I think, and I really like Roy Nelson, but I think Roy Nelson's had a lot of big opportunities and hasn't been able to win those big fights and really stay, you know, in the top 5 of his division. And I think Overeem has some more legs on his career and could get there if he can just get that real streak going.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. It'll be, you know, and he's always switching camps too, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for him.
Yeah, you might want to check out Boss Rutan's blogs about that. I think he has a lot to say about about Overeem's
I'm sure he does.
Finger pointing of the reasons why he loses or not.
Yeah.
So what's next on the books for you, George? What are you gonna? Do you want to get to the UFC in your next fight? Are you ready to take a fight somewhere else? ONE FC, back to Bellator? What would you like to do?
You know, at this point, just right now, I'm coaching and training. Next month, you know, I have my brother coming as well as my father coming to visit me. So after that, you know, when they leave in May, I'd like to fight May, June.
Okay.
And then, you know, get another win or two, whatever I got to do, and then get into the UFC. I mean, obviously that's everyone's, I think, aspirations in fighting. You know, it's the NFL of MMA, so that's what I want to.
I guess since you're coming off that unfortunate loss in Japan, you need to get back on the winning track before you can make a solid case to take you into the UFC. Right?
Yeah, that kind of set things back for me a little bit. So, no, I'm ready to get back on the horse and keep going and do what I got to do to get in and, you know, and not just get into the UFC, but get in and stay in and, you know, be successful.
Excellent. Well, you know, the buzz around the camp is that you certainly have the talent and the background for it and undoubtedly the work ethic. You know, got a lot of big names backing you, and I'm sure they wouldn't do it unless they had full confidence that you're able to make it to the highest stages of this sport.
Yeah. It's, hopefully everything pans out for me and,
I'm sure it will. I mean, I don't think failure is an option for you.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Exactly. So how can fans keep in touch with you? Where are you at on social media?
I have obviously Facebook. I don't have an athlete page or anything. I just, you know, confirm everyone, but it's just
keeping it real.
Yeah, George Hickman on Facebook, and then on Instagram as well as Twitter. It's GHick1. You can follow me on both of those.
No nickname?
No nickname.
Keeping it real.
Yeah, only my Thai nickname, Jaruit.
And what does that mean?
It's basically like a fighter jet or something.
The fighter jet.
I don't even think the Thai trainers at Tiger know my real name is George. They just all call me Jaruit.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, I had a great time talking with you, George. I wish you all the best with your future endeavors. I hope that people understand that, you know, if they they can come out and train with you at Tiger Muay Thai and have, you know, real world training with you and a UFC legend in Roger Huerta.
Yep.
That's some impeccable resume to align yourself with.
Yeah.
Do you also do private training classes yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Roger, he, between training us and some of the other guys, Zub and Merabik in the UFC.
Yep.
Roger doesn't do privates really anymore. Now that I'm there, he kind of just, he helps me out and he tells people, that my accolades and stuff, and he just doesn't really have time for it. So, I do most of the private training and one-on-ones. So, for wrestling and MMA, that is. So, I do private training, and I love to help people and meet new people from around the world.
Excellent. Well, we'll keep close tabs on your career, George, and I'm expecting big things from you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Man. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, brother.
This was the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Peltier, with my guest, Mr. George Hickman, pro MMA fighter out of the Tiger Muay Thai camp. Enjoy UFC 185 this weekend, guys, and we'll touch base in a few days. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. Be sure to visit trashtalkmma.com.
Smile on my face, behind my back, and talk trash.
And don't forget to follow Antoine on Twitter at Trash Talk MMA. Let us know you're listening. Use hashtag Trash Talk MMA.